Welcome, everyone, to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. And I am one of your hosts, Raj Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Coachability, a master coach and focused on whole human leadership. And I'm here with my co host, John Andrew Williams. I'll let you introduce yourself, John.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Founder of Coach Train EDU. I'm also the creator and producer of Top Coach. It is the industry's first, reality series coach competition based series in the coaching field. And yeah, so anyway, that's my new bio. That's me.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And we're excited to relaunch our Coaching to Flourish podcast. And we have here with us today, I'm super honored. I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Zarya Rubin. And I really want to do this bio justice because Dr. Zarya is a Harvard educated former neurologist. She's a keynote speaker and a burnout expert. She's the founder and CEO of Dr. Zarya Functional Medicine and Coaching Practice. And she focuses on helping high achieving people get to the root causes of chronic stress, exhaustion, and burnout. A TEDx speaker, author, and podcast host. Basically, you're an all-around burnout badass, aren't you?
Well, thank you for that intro, Raj. I love it. And yeah, I like to think of myself as the burnout doctor, mostly because I've lived it. I've been there myself. And so it's something I'm pretty deeply connected to and very passionate about.
Thank you, Dr. Zarya. Well, I was listening to your TEDx the other week, and I note that you start with talking about wake-up calls and indeed your own wake-up call as well. So I would love for us to start there and just hear a little bit about that wake-up call experience from you.
Whew, all right. Yeah, we'll go right there. It's so funny because I was just interviewing someone from my podcast yesterday, and we were talking about whether or not one has to, in fact, hit rock bottom to experience that moment, that wake up call, that pivotal shift to realize that you're deep in burnout and to get you out of burnout. So we had a little back and forth discussion, and I wish it weren't the case that you sort of have to reach this real nadir or low point in your life, or you that it takes something, a massive event or wake up call to shift you out of it. But for me, I'll set the scene. So I was at the very end of my medical training. I had been training to be a doctor and a specialist and then a subspecialist for about 15 years. And it was
Wow.
a very long and arduous road. And you would think I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it wasn't like that. Really, it got harder and harder, and it got more and more difficult to continue day after day. It was like I was sort of walking through quicksand or molasses. And I thought, how can I get through the very next day? I was really miserable. I had all sorts of physical symptoms, insomnia, nightmares every single night, a lot of panic attacks in the hospital, and just kept going, just kept putting one foot in front of the other, thinking, well, I guess this is just what it feels like to be an adult and to have committed to this very, very difficult, demanding career. But that's the path I've chosen, and I'm making this self-sacrifice. And, the more you sacrifice, the happier you'll be, right? So I just kept going, and it got so bad to the point that I was living in Manhattan, would take the subway to work every day, and I would stand on the platform, wait for the train. And as I saw it coming towards me, I would think to myself, should I get on it or jump in front of it? And that was almost like a game or a joke to me. I didn't even really realize just how serious things had become. And I wasn't prepared to do anything about it because really, what could I do? I had invested so much time, so much money
Hmm.
in my training. And there was the whole identity piece that this was really, it wasn't a career or a job. I mean, it was who I was. I was a physician, didn't know anything else. I had no clue what I would do outside of medicine. And so I just thought, well, this is this is my fate. And then, a wake-up call came in the form of a literal phone call late at night from my best friend from medical school. And she was calling to tell me that her husband had collapsed while he was at a sporting event. He was playing frisbee. They tried to resuscitate him, rushed him to the hospital. And I said, well, but he's okay, right? And she said, no, he didn't make it. And I don't know if I dropped the phone or what happened in that, but in that moment it was like everything shifted. I suddenly saw my mortality flash before my eyes, and I thought, like, is this it? Like, this is it. This is all we get in life, and I cannot continue to be this miserable, this really at the end of my rope. I don't think I would not have called it burnout at the time. I didn't have the language or the words for it. This was back in 2007, so a while ago, and burnout was not as much of a hot topic as it is now. So I don't even think I would have called it burnout. I just thought, well, I guess I'm having a midlife crisis or something, even though I was only in my 30s. But um, yeah. And so I made the very, very difficult, excruciating decision to walk away from my medical career, my childhood dream, the only thing I had really ever known.
Dude, my coaching curiosity is going through the roof right now. All right, so a couple questions. When you first made
Sure.
that leap, how did you know it was the right one, or did you like, was it the kind of thing where, yeah, like to what degree does it
I
feel like,
mean,
ooh,
to most people, it
yeah.
would have seemed insane. I mean, it was
Mhm,
insane.
mhm,
I compare it to sort of like jumping off a cliff, not knowing if you have a parachute or not, hoping it's gonna maybe inflate. Don't know. I really didn't have a clear plan, but I just knew really, it was just sort of like an inner knowing, and it's an intuition. It's something that you sense
mhm,
really deep in your bones that I cannot continue. And there was a Turkish proverb actually that kind of gave me
mm.
permission to do the impossible. And it was, no matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, turn back.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what allowed me to get out of medicine, which really it really seemed overwhelmingly impossible and against the odds. And I didn't have a plan A, plan B, plan C ahead of me. I just sort of did a crazy thing, but no regrets.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it just sounds so congruent when you're talking about it. You know what I mean? Like just aligns energetically with I don't know, there's a co in the coaching world, it feels like you like basically you were practiced empathetic listeners, right? When you're listening to somebody, you start to get a sense for their energy, and it just sounds like there's a certain peacefulness in the decision, and it feels like, you know, looking at your website and everything like this, it feels very clear. Yeah, born to do the work that you're doing.
Mm.
When did that occur? Like when did that realization happen? I'm sure it wasn't like an overnight thing, but like when was the yes, like this is born to do this kind of work experience?
I mean, I think there isn't one moment. I think it's an evolution that takes place over time, and you sort of become who you are or who you're meant to be. I mean, it's an ongoing process. It's an evolution. And I think at so many steps and points along the way, I would have said, what am I doing? Or this is a disaster, or what
Mhm.
have I done? Or, why did I do XYZ? And it's almost like it only makes sense really in retrospect. They say hindsight is 2020, and you only really see the path and are able to connect all the dots from that vantage point. And while you're in it, while you're going through it, you might just be feeling like, what am I doing? And I can't, I have iterated and changed careers. I mean, more times than most people change underwear. And I gave a speech at my college reunion a couple of years ago, and they included me in this. Like, there was a bunch of people up on stage who were pretty cool. Hollywood actress, Ketanji Brown Jackson's roommate, a Buddhist monk, and like me. I'm thinking, why am I up there? And they said, well, because your bio and when you wrote about your essay, because you submit a little blurb about what you're up to, you listed like 25 different careers. And I said, yeah, I've had a few. And it really has been an evolution, but I think that there were a lot of warning signs along the way that pointed me in a direction that, this is probably not the right fit. I mean, from the first week of medical school when I was in the anatomy lab and everyone was super excited to get their hands on a cadaver, and all I could do was burst into tears. And everyone was kind of like, what do we do with this woman? And the instructor pulled me aside after class and she said, oh, let me guess, you've had a recent death in the family. And I said, nope. And then she paused and looked at me and said, you might want to choose an alternate career path.
Wow.
And I didn't want to believe her. I didn't want to listen because I thought that my empathy was sort of one of my superpowers, and I still think it is, and that it would make me a phenomenal doctor. I didn't realize that it would also kind of be a liability.
Uh, yeah, no, I'm out. I have a daughter who's studying for biology test right now, and that's kind of stuff. No, I get the heebie-jeebies so fast. Like mm-mm,
Yeah,
mm-mm.
I don't know how I overcame all of my, you know, reservations, hesitations, flaws, phobias, panic attacks about it. But I just had this drive, this very deep instinctive drive to be a doctor that started when I was really, really, really little. And unfortunately, it came from the right place, but the wrong place. It came out of childhood medical trauma. So I had very significant repeated childhood medical trauma, and I thought that's a great reason to become a doctor. But spoiler alert, trauma is not a fantastic foundation for choosing a career path. So it pointed me in a certain direction, and my drive was overwhelming, and my passion and my desire to do it. But ultimately, it was a very, very bad fit. And my whole family were performers and actors and artists, and they were sort of like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm gonna have like a serious career." And then of course, then the moments where I felt most at peace and happiest and most like my authentic self during my medical training in medical school was when I had the lead in the med shows. And if that's not a red flag, I don't know what is.
No, seriously. No, no, I'm trying
But
you so
I
much. All
but
right,
I
so I
did
got some
it.
questions.
Yeah.
I got some
Yeah,
questions,
sure,
some
sure,
pointed ones, because
sure.
I mean, truth be told, I mean, I had a choice back in college to go into Wall Street or education. It was like one of those, talks with self, multiple hour talks with self, right? Chose education, sure. And then I found coaching. And so I've worked with a lot of people who've experienced burnout, but I know that I've never experienced it myself. That's not to say that I think entrepreneurial stress and business stress is something different. And Raj and I've
I mean,
talked.
that's amazing. Bravo. You get a gold star because you're one of the few people that I've met who says they've never experienced it or even been come close or been at risk for it. So you're doing something right.
It's lovely, and I feel born to do this work. That's not to say payroll is a hungry animal that has to be fed every week and month. It's a thing, right? All this to say, in the last 2 weeks, my education and burnout has increased a hundredfold. And I think before I had more of the, I don't know, layperson's understanding of it. Obviously working with a lot of executives as a coach, it comes up a lot. But what's lovely about the coaching world is I don't have to be an expert in it. I just get curious about it. And so in the last 2 weeks, I've got really curious about burnout. And so I have things I've learned recently that I just want to throw by, pass by you thinking, all right. So thing number one, uh, the World Health Organization doesn't list it as a medical condition, but as a workplace condition. Thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I
All
don't
right.
I don't love that.
All right. All right. Thing number two. Thing number two. There's no real diagnosis for burnout that doesn't match what people would look at as depression. Thing number three is the idea of like a burnout badge, and the idea that originally burnout coined from a space of Burnout is people with helper hearts get in there more, and they're faced with a system that is, let's say, structurally biased, unfair, a system that asks them to do things that they don't morally agree with, doesn't get their resources for. So you have moral injury on top of
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
But then there's also this like idealistic, I want to save the world, sense, and that's where the burnout comes from. So those are the things I want to cover from like a broader basis.
Love it.
Where do you want to start? And Raj, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, I
how are we
mean, let's
doing? Yeah.
start at the beginning with the
Okay.
definitions. And I think that, burnout has become, for better or for worse, I think mostly for better, it's become such a buzzword. I mean, it is all over social media, it's all over the news. I mean, maybe it's just my algorithm, but I think it really has come into more of the popular vernacular. And, it's not like it just showed up in 2019 when the WHO included it in the ICD, but in the 70s, that's when the original burnout research and the term came about. These two different psychologists were both working on it, Dr. Herbert Freudenberger and Dr. Christina Masloch, and they kind of independently came to the idea and the definition of burnout and really described it using three key pillars. So the first one being exhaustion. And it's not just like I'm tired and I need to rest or I need to take the weekend off. It's the kind of like deep bone tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, vacation doesn't fix. I mean, you're almost like unable to get out of bed in the morning. Um, or at all, really. So that's number one. Number two is cynicism. So it's this real kind of disconnect. You lose faith in the organization or lose trust in the folks that you're working with. You might see that in the hospital anyway. You see it a lot. You see all this gallows humor and this kind of very cynical humor about the work and the job. And the third one is decreased professional efficacy or just feeling like you're not capable anymore and you're not focused, you're not concentrating, you're sort of phoning it in. It's sort of like the quiet quitting concept, but also most people who burn out tend to be very high achieving, so there may not be a visible drop in performance or work ethic. It's just like that you're not really able to function at the level that you're used to. So those are kind of the three things that go into what burnout is in the definition. Now, I think that restricting it to a workplace phenomenon is a mistake. I think it's really woefully inadequate because you can burn out as at work, you can burn out personally, you can burn out as a caregiver, you can burn out as a parent, you can burn out during the pandemic, you can burn out from the political environment, you can burn, I mean, there's so many, and all of these aspects kind of relate and interact. And I think they're cumulative. And so you can have burnout coming at you from all these different angles aside from the physiologic aspect and it can be your environment, literal work environment or living environment can be toxins in the environment, bright lights. And I mean in the hospital and medicine it was just all fluorescent lights, machines beeping at you constantly, no windows, no natural light. So the patient rooms all had windows, but where the doctors and nurses work, like inside, there's no windows. And so that can really get to you over time. So I think, so that's the answer, the kind of the first two parts of the question. In terms of there being a diagnosis for burnout, yeah, I think we need to be a little more accurate. There is sort of the three pillars. There are instruments like tests you can administer. There's the Maslow Burnout Inventory, which is kind of the most famous one, and other inventories and things that give you an idea. I mean, there are certainly a bunch of labs and things that you can look at that paint a picture of burnout, but I think we need to do better. We need to have more research. We need to have more diagnostic tests. We need to have more correlation between the psychological, the physiological, the social, like how it all intersects and interacts so that we can create a better way of diagnosing, preventing, treating burnout rather than just kind of laying the responsibility at the feet of the individual, which is, I think, partly what the WHO definition does. That if it's a workplace phenomenon, it's sort of your responsibility to fix it. It's not really the responsibility of the workplace to fix it because they're not probably going to. And if they do try to fix it, it's like, let's create a wellness program. Let's give our employees more work to do so that they can learn about stress and burnout. Let's give them a meditation app, or they got to come to these classes every week. It's additive rather than, giving them that more breathing room and space, and maybe more flexible working hours, maybe more natural exposure to, go for a walk at lunch, etc.
I'm curious about these pillars as well. So I know we've talked a little bit about perhaps ignoring signals, right? And we're also looking at responsibility. I know that you talk about we are trained to think of ourselves as superheroes, right? And there is also all these concepts around badges of honor. So think about the work
Was.
that we do at Coachability and I'm doing with leaders. Um, and I want to learn more from John actually as well in terms of him. He has a very healthy way of balancing or integrating work-life balance. But I don't have a single leader that comes to our programs or works with me directly that is not saying that they're overwhelmed, they are stressed, they are struggling, they are overstimulated, even if they're not using the word burnout.
Mm,
So, foundational thing that we do in our program, Leadership from Inside Out, is a core principle that I created on how you are is how you lead. Because what I was finding is the wellness world, taking care of yourself, even mindfulness and breathing, this it's just kind of this stroke of this is woo woo or this is soft. So I took it upon myself to reframe and say, where is this the organizational responsibility? Or where is this your responsibility as a leader? Because as a coach, I needed to help people reframe what it meant to take care of themselves. And a lot of them, myself included, really struggling to put ourselves first. A woman, an Indian woman, brought up in a way of over-giving, over-helping, trained to be selfless. It's almost selfish to put yourself first. So I had to share that, I had to reframe and say, it's my responsibility as a leader and as a founder to take care of myself and put these practices in place. So I'm really curious and kind of what your thoughts are on why do we miss these warning signs? Why do we ignore them?
mm. Yeah. Okay. So I'll answer this, and then I'll answer. I remembered the last part of John's
Me too.
question about it was about moral injury
And badges, like
and
burnout
badges
as a
of honor.
badge.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah. Okay. So, yes. First of all, I think that, when you get on an airplane, they teach you that if the oxygen masks fall, from the ceiling, before you put one on your child, you have to put one on yourself. And I think that that's a really key metaphor and lesson that we can learn in the world of burnout and leadership, in terms of like, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not leading from a place of overflow or fulfillment, if you're leading from an empty cup, then you don't really have a lot to offer or a lot to give. And so it's not selfish to replenish or to take care of yourself, because it's going to make you a better leader. It's going to make you a better example. And I mean, it really all depends also on the culture and the environment. I mean, our leaders and our employees expected to take their work home, work on the weekends, answer calls at all hours of the day and night, and as a leader, can you set that example and be like, hey, I'm not available between X time and X time. And like, that's okay. And you guys can do that too. And it's allowed. And in fact, it's encouraged to set those boundaries, because I think that we get stuck in this endless sort of hamster wheel of, I have to always be on, I have to always be available. I mean, gosh, I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have these things, these little cell phones and computers and things that we could take with us 24/7. And you leave work on a Friday and that was it. You would leave work and you would leave it aside and have that time for yourself, with your family, with friends, with activities, hobbies, things that you enjoy so you could replenish yourself. So I think that that's part of the answer to your question. In terms of why do we miss the signs? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One, they're very insidious. And so I always talk about, the frog and the boiling water. If you take a frog and you put it in a pot of boiling water, what is it going to do? Well, it's going to leap out, be like, what? What's this? This is horrible. But if you take a frog and you put it in a nice pot of room temperature water and you slowly crank up the heat 1 degree at a time, it's not going to notice. It's going to boil. And I think that's kind of what we're doing to ourselves with burnout is that we are just becoming so habituated and so acclimatized to a toxic workload or work environment that we don't notice that we're in it. And that is why sometimes it does take this huge event or wake up call to snap us out of it. I think that we're ignoring the signs. I also talk about like the check engine light phenomenon, and like your body, your mind, they're sending you signals. It's trying to tell you something is wrong, pay attention. And you just keep driving. You're like, oh, that check engine light flashed on. Well, that was annoying, but it flashed off. Cool. I can ignore it. Gonna keep going. Probably was nothing. Probably was just a glitch. And then you keep driving and then it comes on again, but this time it stays on for a little bit longer. And you think, should I pay attention to that? I don't know, maybe, but well, it went off again. Cool. And then it comes on and then it stays on. And you're driving, and then that light is just glaring at you, and it's red and it's not flashing anymore. It's not going away, it's staying on. And you think, gosh, what should I do? I know. I'll get some duct tape and like, tape over it so that it doesn't bother me anymore. And I think that's often what we do.
John, did you want to bring back your curiosity? I've got duct tape
Yeah.
in my mind, but around the badges of honor, what were your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So to answer the rest of John's question, now that I wrap my head around it, so yes, I think that oftentimes burnout does come from being asked to do impossible things in impossible situations and things that go against what we know to be the right thing to do, especially as physicians. So that's a concept called moral injury. When you know what the right treatment is, you know what the right course of action is for this patient, but due to restrictions in resources, insurance, availability of providers, scheduling, overload, like you can't do the things that you know are the right thing to do. And that creates this real conflict. And then when that becomes too much to bear, and when you're exposed to so much of this injustice and trauma day after day after day, you start to develop something called compassion fatigue, which is when you actually stop having compassion for the people you were supposed to be taking care of and caring about the most. And then you feel a great deal of shame around that. You don't want anyone to find out about that because that just really comes from being traumatized, being burnt out, being at the end of your capacity, well beyond your capacity. And then you feel really guilty and you don't want to tell anyone.
That's got to be incredibly isolating and just supercharges the whole process.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I've heard really messed up stories from some of the executive clients I've worked with that it's almost impossible to imagine, but you know what I mean? The politics of, I mean, oof, it's a lot. It's heavy. And I think a lot of it
Yeah.
is combined with our culture that really puts premium on the individual as the, you know, primary source. What, this like asking for help is a weakness kind of sensation.
Yes, absolutely. And that goes back to the sort of the badge of honor thing.
Hmm.
It's like I'm superhuman. I can handle anything.
Yeah.
Burnout, that's for sissies. Like I can do it all. I can be super woman, super mom, super executive. Um, I can invent hours in the day. I don't, who needs sleep? Like that sleep
Yeah.
is overrated. And that works maybe for a little while in your 20s and 30s. And you get to your late 30s, you get to your 40s, and especially as women, that will break down because a little something called perimenopause happens and all bets are off. And there's no reserve and there's no buffer and there's no ability to tolerate the intolerable anymore.
Yeah, all bets are definitely off when you're in that place. And I'm just listening to you, and I'm thinking about belief systems connected to badges of honor that I've reframed myself or the clients that we work with. And I was just listening to you, and it makes me laugh now. But I used to, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to say that
Sure.
in my 30s, or
Earnestly, yes. Like,
I don't
sure.
have a lunch break. Lunch? Oh no! I'm so strong and so superhuman. I just eat my lunch on the go. I haven't had a sick day. I used to say I had a sick day in 9, 10 years. And those badges of honor coming from those belief systems. And I'll joke, and I'm Gen Xer. I've got these badges of honor and belief systems. Yes.
Gen
Yeah.
X, I mean, we were built different.
Latchkey kids
We
bought
took
us.
care of ourselves. Yeah. No, no, no seat belts. No, no
Um,
helmets. We
no.
somehow we survived.
Exactly. Yeah, just listening to you as well, listen to both of you. And we're talking about, as I said, I was talking about organizational responsibility before, and you talked about the environment around us. So it's not just the work environment. I know as an entrepreneur, I work for myself, I lead my business, and I've made jokes. I'm like, I've got a tough boss, right? She does not let me take vacation. I'm talking about myself because I would create that wherever I go because of belief systems and values and continue to push myself. I mean, what is your experience on
Well,
what I'm saying right now?
I mean, it's resonating 100% with me because I think what some very high achieving, professional executive folks might realize or might notice is you might change jobs or change work environments. Or for me, I left medicine and that was absolutely the right decision. But then I sort of went from the frying pan into the fire in many ways and went from, medicine to a technology startup to the pharmaceutical industry, becoming executive. And I just kept burning out in all of these different environments. And there was only one common denominator, and it was me.
Interesting.
And so you will be predisposed to burn out again if you've burned out once because those guardrails are not in place. You don't necessarily learn from your mistakes the first time through. And then, yeah, then I burned out in motherhood as well. So there's so many ways to burn out. And if you don't really do the work and dig deep and look at the patterns and look at all of the factors that go into it, both the external environmental or systemic factors and the individual factors. So I think we kind of have to address burnout from multiple different angles. Then it's going to happen again.
It's so cool. Because I mean, the answer isn't, is it the external job thing, or is it, some sort of state or trait that people
It's
might be
both.
predisposed to?
Can be
Both.
both. Can be more one. Can be more the other. Can
That's
be
the rule of twos, right?
the synergy, the interaction.
Hmm.
So it really it is kind of individualistic, but it's like on the one hand we say, well, the culture has to change or society has to change. And that's absolutely true. But that takes place at a glacial pace. And
Hmm.
so we can't blame the individual. We can't put the onus or the burden exclusively on the individual, but we also have to empower the individual to be able to make changes for themselves while they are waiting for these other
Yeah.
big changes to happen.
No, that's right on. As I was diving into this, I was also thinking, okay, so what's the antidote, right? What's the antidote to burnout? And there are two external and one internal, right? So the two external are Basically, you give people more decisions, more control, which is what coaching does, right? I know there's some studies that say coaching actually works, and that's probably why, because it's this idea of uh, decision rights and decision trees. And I mean, I went from high school teacher to coach to trainer to like, small school creator type of thing. So employees, I had to learn, organically, okay, this is how you run a company. This is how you run an organization. One of the game changers for us recently has been what we're calling internal charters, which is like decision rights. Like this is like who owns the project. These are the decision rights that you have. These are the things you need to check in with, who me about or Brittany about or whoever about. And it's been a game changer. And I can see, the idea of, clear as kind, these decisions, to make so I can see the responsibility of the workplace to show up in a way that can help. And I'm also quite curious about the other aspect of it, which is this idea of absorption or flow, right? The idea that how many times in a day does somebody get genuinely absorbed in a project that they're genuinely excited about? And that seems to answer the both, right? That seems to be
Mm.
both sides of that space. It aligns. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is this,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that, yeah, you speak to a couple of things that have been studied in the workplace in terms of autonomy, in terms of empowerment and decision making, like feeling like you have some control over your schedule, over how many meetings you attend. I mean, I think the number of meetings that employees attended during the pandemic, it skyrocketed, right, like increased like 75%. And then that hasn't really gone back
oh,
down.
interesting.
Like we have not reduced it enough post pandemic. And it's like, do we really need to be going to all these Zoom meetings and all these meetings? Like, no, probably not. But there needs to be some empowerment there. And then there needs to be also that concept of recognition and positive feedback. It can't just be like, oh, here's your review and here's what you can improve on. It's like, here's the appreciation for how much you mean to this organization and this company and like why we value you. So I think if that's not there, that's where the cynicism creeps in as well. And the feeling like, well, I'm not appreciated here anyway, so why bother? And then there's also the fit, and then it sort of speaks to the flow and the project assignments. And I think oftentimes people get promoted and promoted and they end up becoming more and more managerial and managing more and more people. That might not be what they're best at.
Yeah.
And that might not be their sweet spot. And it might not
Or
be
even what they want to do.
what they want to
Yeah.
do. So let's
Hmm.
find ways to promote people that might look different, or ways to, promote people laterally or assign people to different projects that speak to their strengths and their skills and their happy place, rather than like, oh, this is what we need you to do now that you have this other title.
Yeah. It's a mantra. I feel
So,
like we say it so many times, like right people, right place, right people in the right seats doing the right things.
Yeah.
so I know I could listen to you all day, Zarya, and I'm sure John could as well. And we coaches so many questions all of us
Aren't we
probably
on for
have
3 hours? I thought this was a 3 hour
for
thing.
each
Are
other.
we? I'm just getting warmed
We've got
up.
three
Like, what are,
minutes left. So, as I move us into wrapping up, 3 minute
yeah.
warning. I told you, I keep an eye on the time. I'm a structure person. Um, as I mean, this has just been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. It really has. I've learned so much from you as well, Zaria, and I'm
Thank
kind
you.
of reflecting on, some of my patterns and mindsets and belief systems. How can I continue to help the clients that I work with? And I think what I would love to, I'm sure listeners would love to hear from you as well. Like we're all adding so many more things to our to-do list, yet maybe what is a tip or some words of wisdom that you can leave our listeners with?
Well, that's a great segue into one of the core concepts of my TEDx talk, which is a simple but not necessarily easy mantra that you can implement starting right now. And that is do one thing less. We are always trying to add things to our plate, to our schedule. We're always trying to fit one more thing in, fit one more meeting in, fit one more task in, fit one more errand in, running around, and the metaphor that I like to use is if you're clearing the dining table and you've got all of these dishes piled up and stacked up, and there's like one pesky little cup sitting on the table. Are you going to leave it there? Are you going to walk away? Are you going to pick it up and add it to the pile and then have all of the dishes crash down? And then you got to spend all that time sweeping up the broken glass. You got to buy new dishes. It's like, because you think, oh, I can't do less because I'm going to be less productive and I can't get less done. But you will actually get more done. And it is also about prioritization and like what actually matters, what is actually important, what is driving this forward, what is something that I really care about and want to be doing rather than I need to be doing every single thing possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Great words of wisdom, some great coaching questions. It's been an honor to be on this call with you. John, do you have any final closing words for us as we wrap up today?
Just thank you, Raj. It's good to be back in action with you, doing this again.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look out for the next one. So we're going to have some great guests on these Coaching to Flourish podcasts. We will be sharing as well Dr. Zarya Rubin's information with you. You have to go and check out her TEDx. It's phenomenal. And also her podcast. So we'll see you next time. Well, thank you both.
Really
and John, I'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
So fun.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed it. You guys are great.
Me too. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.